There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, except that one time when he died, is my humble and trusty co-host, Ayrton McCartney. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I chugged a Red Bull, and now I'm drinking screwdrivers, so we'll see if my heart explodes by the end of this episode.
I'm taking bets. Y'all.
And it was one of the big Red Bulls, not like the little, like the normal little size can.
Do you remember the monsters that were literally labeled BFCs? They were like 4 monsters in one can.
Yes.
It was called a Heart Attack the Hard Way, I believe.
Yeah. Well, one of my buddies from Ireland, how he likes to put it is he has a heart condition, so he really enjoys downing an energy drink and drinking whiskey because it gives him such an adrenaline rush because his heart's like, fuck you, I don't know what to do right now.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, that seems legit. Everybody in the chat, let me know if the audio or the buffering or anything gets unbearable. Right now, my CPU connection is doing weird things. It's staying pretty steady, but for whatever reason, it's just being a bitch. So if it drops out or drops down, just you guys let me know, and I'll see if I can adjust it. Y'all starting early tonight? What you celebrating? No. I started early. Because I had to work late, and that's just how life works.
And I got home like an hour and a half ago. So.
Right, yeah. He's been at rehearsal, and I've been working, and we both read some Brubaker, crime dramas today, and, well, that always leads to whiskey or beer. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it exactly? I don't know.
Yeah.
Audio seems good, so. Well, anybody following the show will know that this is our third iteration of reading some Brubaker. We've covered Marvel with Winter Soldier. We've covered Image with his ongoing series Criminal, which actually started at Marvel's Icon in prep.
And
came to listen to the word.
Know that we're horribly off schedule with doing this Brubaker series.
We are, but that's because we've had a lot of fantastic guests. We got to go over Cyberfrog in the last episode. I mean, what? Ethan Van Sciver came in the chat.
Which I did grab the second limited printing. I was able to snag one of those yesterday.
When that ships, when Ayrton has it in his hands, I don't care if it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I don't care what day it is. The moment Ayrton has that in his hands, I expect him to quit his job, go home, put on his headset, and let me know, and we will do a spoil-filled 2-hour plus Cyberfrog review, where we will be answering questions from the chat. We will go through it on the, 4-page per chapter kind of, trying to keep with fair use, but we will do a complete spoiler of Cyberfrog the moment this campaign ends and it ships. So,
see what happens when you start early?
Actually, we started late. I started on time.
No, when you start early.
I never start early. The size of my beard implies that as a wizard, I always do everything precisely when I intend to.
Fair enough.
You just best be glad I'm not drinking scotch already.
Maybe when it ships and I get it, I'll do one of those stupid like cell phone unboxing videos of like opening the book and post it on my channel.
Yeah, that'll be good. So you post it here. This is comic related.
Oh, okay.
You post it on both with different titles to make people.
I would have no idea how to. How would I even send it to you?
The Drive, man. You send it to me via Google Drive.
Oh, you can do that?
Yes. Oh, just upload it and share it with me. What do you mean I don't trust you? I've given you my docs.
True. I meant trust me with the sign-in for the channel.
No, I trust you with that. You just don't have a way to get into it to do anything.
That's fair.
Until you call me from a computer, I don't really. Anyway, quick shout out. What's going on, Novel Bro, Cartoon, Captain Weeb? How's it going, guys? And by the way,
Melodotti's in the chat.
Also, Melodottie, you're not on screen right now. Got to scroll up for that one. Melodottie, how's it going? Anyway, I'm not as bourbon drunk as you think I am. I just haven't eaten enough today.
Fair.
In any event, did you make it through Gotham Central?
Yes.
Did you read the Hawkman story?
I did.
So, the first thing that we can say about Brubaker is that... Good to be back in the chat. Thank Fallout 4, listening to the Church of Failure review comics, fun stuff.
Nice.
Always good to be here. Hey, Cart, my dude. Ed Brubaker can quite literally... He can turn a Sugar Ray song into a crime drama.
I want to see that. Can we get an Indiegogo for that?
I mean, there's a lot of Indiegogos right now. Maybe we only need a few.
But... yeah, literally anything into a crime drama. Obviously Gotham Central, but I was like, okay, Hawkman this week. Cool. All right, let's see.
Captain Weeb, listen to me very closely. Go find some ibuprofen or aspirin. Put 2 of them next to your bed. Take a full glass of water. Put them right next to the aspirin or the ibuprofen. Before you put your head to that pillow, you take those headache medicines, drink the full glass of water. You'll be fine in the morning.
And then
I'm an expert.
Drinking a second glass of water after.
That's when you wake up.
Oh, I always do 2 big glasses of water before bed after heavy drinking, and I'm good.
Well, without the headache medicine, but, you're young.
Yeah.
I'm not assuming Captain Weeb's age or gender, if you noticed. But, uh-oh. Novel Bro's going for the Glenlivet.
Nice.
Oh, God. Novel Bro, I need to know, do you have a bagpipe in your home? As a proper Scot, drinking scotch, do you own a bagpipe, and are you currently wearing a kilt?
Well, I assume he's always in a kilt.
Never assume, Ayrton. Anyway, Ed Brubaker can turn literally anything into a crime drama. And we started the evening out going on to the DC era of Brubaker in 2004. When did... oh, no, actually 2003. So Gotham Central debuted in 2003. And Hawkman was 2004. But we started in Gotham Central. And unlike most iterations of Batman lore that we know, this is a Gotham City Police Department where the only relatable character that I recognized as a longtime comic fan was Renee Montoya in the GCPD. Jim Bullock and Commissioner Gordon had already moved on from the GCPD. They didn't work there. I guess Commissioner Gordon was somewhere else. However, we've always seen him operating in the police department with a bat signal. And the GCPD is where that bat signal is. But the thing is there was no commissioner at this location. I would assume that the, following commissioner would want to be stationed at the headquarters with the goddamn bat signal, right?
I thought there was a commissioner. I remember them referring to one.
I thought it was chief.
I swear they said commissioner.
Well, Gordon showed up in this series, and they called him commissioner. But in any event, main cast of characters is not anybody that you're familiar with from Batman lore. So that's the first interesting thing about this.
Which I kind of like that.
Well, why don't you kind of talk about this for a second? Like, just tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. I mean, we're not going to go through all 5 issues talking about it like a normal review, because we've just kind of been covering Brubaker, and we'll pull up issues and specific scenes you want to talk about, but I'm not going to go through this like a normal review. I want to talk about it in the sense that it's Brubaker, and it's kind of classic Brubaker, but before he was well known for doing this kind of writing.
Well, yeah, the writing definitely reminds me of Criminal to an extent, but but reversed on like the police's side of it. Just the overall style and kind of drama of it.
I actually thought of that while I was reading it. Like, usually you see Brubaker's writing kind of take place from the criminal's angle. He writes about crimes as they're being committed or in the past tense by the criminals. Even in The Winter Soldier, you could kind of identify with Bucky being a criminal of war who was trying to atone for the things that he did while he was under the control of the Soviet Empire or whatever.
And jetpack wearing machine gun gorillas also. Don't forget that.
No.
But no, I really liked kind of the writing style role reversal, if you will.
Hold up. Important information. Cartoon actually plays the bagpipes.
Aw, shit.
Navarro is not currently wearing his kilt, but he owns 3. And his mother is hoarding them for him. No bagpipes in the home, but I was a side drummer.
Oh, really?
Aged 8 to 13, so I'm guessing 15 to 20 years ago. Pipe band, not flute band. So
those side drummers, some of those guys were pretty wild. Some of those Celtic folk bands.
He's a writer. He's breaking out his whiskey right now to drink with us. You don't think that Navarro is wild already?
Well, I meant like their playing is wild. Like most of the time when you think like the side drum, you think of just like the boop 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 boop, like just basic stuff. But I've seen some dudes do some like crazy, like intricate rhythm stuff on those things.
It seems legit. But no, what did you think of Gotham Central as a whole, and how it basically compared to Brubaker's writing over time? Like, from what you've read already, this was very different from Winter Soldier, but it was eerily similar to Criminal.
Yeah. My only critique, I guess, I really enjoyed like the overall story. My only real critique is I kind of saw the ending, like the person responsible for the crime. I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah, I did too, because it was the only
It was the only thing that makes sense.
Well, it was the only unsuspecting culprit. Like, it was the only person that would have actually gotten convicted in an episode of Law and Order. That one guy they introduced the one time, and you could really see that he was probably innocent, so there was no reason to actually mention him. They did anyway.
Yeah. So, besides that, I think he could have been a little bit more subtle on the depiction of that character, like that first scene where they first go and just like get the statements from them.
And let's fill the
twist a little better.
Let's fill the chat in on what the actual story is and what the twist was and all that good shit.
Yeah.
So the story as a whole opens up with the Gotham City Police Department and two, I guess they're off-duty officers.
They're just plainclothes detectives.
Yeah, after hours, they're investigating a lead on a kidnapping, quote unquote. And the lead apparently takes them to Mr. Freeze accidentally. So Mr. Freeze has nothing to do with what they're investigating, but they uncover his hideout in a shitty apartment, which, if I don't take into consideration what I'm reading as crime noir, makes absolutely no sense.
Well, you always have to have a criminal hiding in a shitty apartment in a crime drama.
In a crime drama, you have Batman trapping, so one of those criminals, instead of being in a lair that was paid for by stolen diamonds that he didn't need for his suit, Mr. Freeze is holed up in a shitty apartment with a henchman that dies as a plot device an issue later. To be completely critical of the writing, I don't think it works with these trappings. Like, I don't think you can have supervillains in a crime noir, if that makes sense. It's the reason The Shadow did so well. You can have superheroes, but
I think it worked though, just because it was taking place in Gotham. If he had done it in like Central City with the Flash as an ancillary character, and like Gorilla Grodd busted out of the apartment and killed his partner, I would agree that doesn't work. But Gotham.
Actually, let me stop you, because Gorilla Grodd would be ridiculous staying in a shitty apartment. He'd be in the sewer somewhere, Central City. That's obvious.
It's just because we mentioned the gorilla earlier. That's why that came into mind. Anyway.
You can literally replace the trappings with the Flash if you sub in Mr. Freeze for Captain Cold in that particular scene.
Which is fair, but
literally, this story's antagonist could be Captain Cold and Flamethrower, Heatwave, whatever his fucking name was.
Yeah, but the ambiance of like Gotham is kind of that gritty, like crime, gangster, noir thing, whereas like Central City not so much.
I'm not saying it wouldn't work for like some B-level villain like the Ventriloquist. I'm not saying it wouldn't have worked for like maybe even the Penguin or
the Trickster, maybe.
Yeah, but for a Mr. Freeze, like even Firebug, if they would have uncovered Firebug instead of Mr. Freeze in that particular scene, that would have made sense.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. That part didn't bug me as much as the...
Yeah, but you're not really a Batman reader.
That's true. I'm not.
As a Batman reader over time, I know that Mr. Freeze requires a lot to sustain himself. I know that Mr. Freeze is a character that usually deals in diamonds for sustenance as well as funding. So when it comes to hideouts, his are always just a little more elaborate, and it's not hard to suspend your disbelief from that. Like, he'll overthrow a cryogenics lab, or he'll have an underground lair where he's got it turned down to sub-zero temperatures, and Batman's got to wear the insulated, like, polar bat suit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mr. Freeze is not the kind of guy that, and this is a nitpick critique, but again, as all things, even with Cyberfrog, have to be fair about things. And as a comic reader, as a longtime fan who wasn't going into this going, okay, I'm reading this as an Ed Brubaker book, because that's the perspective I bring. I bring the person that looks at a comic book and judges relevance based on what I know from reading 80 years worth of mainstream comics.
Yeah. Also, just one other thing to point out is, it didn't expressly say that he was hiding out there. It more seemed like he was there, like, planning stuff out with his minion that he ends up killing later. And he just happened to be there during that when the detectives show up.
Right. And
so
they even...
It wasn't necessarily clear if it was a hideout or if it was this other character's place that he just happened to be at. It's not really made clear.
Well,
you know,
one thing I can say is that this story, unlike the previous ones we've reviewed, like we reviewed Criminal Volume 1, and we reviewed The Winter Soldier Volume 1. This is essentially Gotham Central Volume 1. However, it is a 5-issue series written by him. Then someone else does some writing for a little while. He wrote the majority of the series. However, there were other writers in between certain arcs, so this is the first 5-issue arc that he wrote. However, it's broken up into what I would say is 2 different series. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Because the first
two mini series that connect together in the end.
Right. The first 2 books pretty much centralize around Mr. Freeze. And once they capture Mr. Freeze with the help of Batman, which sets the tone for the next 3 issues, I think. And I'm going to come back to that. But the next 3 issues center around Firebug.
And the last 3 issues I definitely enjoyed more than the first 2.
I'll agree with that, but I agree also that the first 2 set the pace.
Yeah, they did set the pace, but because it's at the end. Is it the end of the second issue or the beginning of the first issue? They find the quote unquote kidnapped girl's dead body, like in a sewer pipe.
I believe that's the. I can look, but
yeah. But anyways, once that happened, it kind of twisted that whole investigation around, and then that's when it got like really interesting for me, is once that happened and they had to like reevaluate their entire investigation on this previous case that we almost forgot about because it became ancillary after it was first mentioned in the first couple issues. And I thought that was a nice way to really kind of like bring that
it was
back.
The third issue. It was the beginning of the third issue.
And well, I thought that's pulling that back and kind of turning that case like on its head. That we're dealing with a murder, not a kidnapping. That's when it got really interesting to me.
Right. Novel Bro in the chat. Ideal noir supervillains in DC: Scarecrow, Penguin, the Riddler, Two-Face, the Joker. Not OP, but enough to bring shock factor, provided they're represented as elusive as per the drawn-out norm. Hello, Matt Christie. Thank you for joining us, sir. I am well lubricated for this show, and we are talking Ed Brubaker. So, that's a good description, right? Well lubricated?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say. I'm getting there.
Well, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking screwdrivers tonight because I felt like some vodka and orange juice.
Let me just say that clear alcohol is for rich women on diets.
Yeah, but screwdrivers are just so good.
Are they though?
I like them. I mean, I prefer. I'm doing cheap, just Smirnoff. If I felt like springing for some Crystal Skull vodka, I would prefer that. But shit's kind of expensive.
Well, yeah.
But it's so good.
So I went ahead and pulled up on the screen the pages where Mr. Freeze basically puts.
Oh, sorry. I need I need to interrupt you.
Oh,
I just need to point out when we go back to the station, there's a guy walking in holding or hoarding donuts, and he's not going to share them with the previous shift.
that's
And the guy's
correct.
he's definitely wearing a yarmulke.
Right. Well, he.
So,
Are you saying that he's chewing his donuts?
I am not saying anything. I am just pointing out what is happening in the scene and describing it for our wonderful listeners.
Okay. All right.
I would never say such a thing, Susan
Okay.
Wojcicki.
Okay. So Ayrton definitely not trying to get my channel suspended.
No, not at all.
Oh, drink moonshine. I have some moonshine out in the shed. I use
Moonshine?
paint thinner.
Moonshine is clear.
Yes, but it's still whiskey. It's just not aged.
I'm pretty sure Vladimir Putin brushes his teeth with vodka.
I mean, he at least gargles with it. So
Yeah.
Navarro
And
wearing a
has
what now? Matt Christie, Crystal Skull is like paint thinner. Well, what vodka do you suggest, Matt Christie?
What do you mean? Crystal Skull's great.
Ayrton, you have poor taste because you're a poor man. It's okay.
That's the smoothest vodka I've ever had. I don't know,
That's
give me a
sad.
suggestion. I'll try it out.
For smooth vodka,
Yeah.
I mean,
The Crystal Skull, it doesn't have like that rubbing alcohol burn that a lot of them do. It's weird.
dog. New
Say
Amsterdam
it.
is a better vodka than Crystal Skull.
Mel
and
Gibson madness intensifies.
Russian Standard, says Matt Christie.
All right, I'll check it out.
Anyway,
I mean, I'll also go for Tito's, which isn't bad either. But
Tito's is pretty fantastic. But anyway, we have here in this panel, which I really like the art in this. It kind of takes me back to the like old pulp, like single panels you would get in between full stories that were supposed to like prepare you for what you were about to read. You know what I'm talking about? Where you had like the half-page image that popped up at the beginning of the chapter or whatever.
right.
This artwork really reminded me of it. Like it's not like super detailed, but it gets the point across, and flat coloring actually works on it.
Well, and it's kind of brings you back to like that time in comics before everything got, what we have now.
This was 2003, so I mean, I'm pretty sure there was digital coloring and digital art then. But
no, I mean it's not like the the propagandizing and like
yeah, well
pushing agendas and stuff. That's what that kind of brings me back to that era because this is kind of the tail end of that.
Yeah, you're about 4 years away from that here.
Yeah,
but like I said, the first two arcs kind of revolve around Mr. Freeze, I guess. And the GCPD is trying to catch him because, obviously, as you see in this scene, one of the detectives that was led to this scene got frozen to death, and that happened to be the partner of what I would assume is the main character / protagonist of this 5-issue miniseries. Well,
And
5-issue arc.
Which is kind of brutal.
Right. And somebody actually jokes about having to like collect him into freezer bags or some shit. And he completely melts when he gets to the morgue. I mean, it's pretty brutal what happens to him here. And I've got to say, like, the way they kind of tie Freeze into this is pretty weak. Because they uncover Freeze at this hideout. The henchman is killed and has an icicle sticking out of his mouth. And you find out later that this whole ruse was to try and assemble all of Gotham's law enforcement in one place and freeze them all. Which he attempted to do with a hacked air conditioning unit, I believe. I mean, the first 2 issues plot are pretty weak, I've got to say. But they do tie into a greater theme of ice and fire. Did you notice that?
I did.
And I'm pretty sure, let me double check these factoids, but I'm pretty sure the George R. R. Martin books, A Song of Ice and Fire, were out by 2003. They had at least started.
Really?
I believe so.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Could be wrong.
So the first 2 issues, the first 2 issues, I think I liked them a little bit more than you did, but...
Yeah, a Game of Thrones came out in 96, A Clash of Kings in 98, A Storm of Swords in 2000. So, yeah, it preceded this series by a good 8 years.
Jeez. I didn't realize it was that old already.
We're old, Ayrton. We're older than these books. George R. R. Martin's gonna die before he finishes them, and then we're gonna die in his, in his wake. Sorry, it's the personal thing, but yeah, the first 2 issues of this are, and in my opinion, they're kind of weak, and I think they're trying to kind of conform to a formula that Brubaker just doesn't work under. Because honestly, I don't really think that one of his stories can be contained to 1 or 2 issues. Like, even in the Hawkman issue that we may end up getting to, it felt like they had to add a whole lot more explanation and exposition to that book in order to sell his vision in 22 pages.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like that there was that much exposition, but I do like the way they did it in the Hawkman book.
I mean, I do too, but that's because it was him and Sean Phillips, and they're kind of like the all-star team when it comes to his work.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the presentation of it. I don't like that it was done, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But in this, it feels like they kind of put him on a timeline to get Mr. Freeze in and out in 2 issues, and he did it in the most, fuck you way possible. And then they were like, all right, just do whatever you're going to do. And he wrote the next 3 issues the way he wanted to, continuing on with the investigation that he planted seed for in the first 2 issues. And then...
And that's fair compared to the rest of the arc. This would definitely be the weakest part of it.
A friend of mine said to me, I've never finished Fallout 4. I said, neither did Bethesda. Hey Batman, what killed the dinosaurs? the Ice Age, Arnold Schwarzenegger is Victor Freeze. Oh, am I? Okay. Alright. Hey, Batman! What killed the dinosaurs? Ice Age! And that was just one of the few bad puns that Arnold Schwarzenegger performed in that movie.
Those are my favorite.
Chill! I hope that was acceptable, Novel Bro. Any future ones you're going to have to ask for in Streamlabs. I will only whore myself out for money. That's fair, right?
Yeah. I mean,
but
if you don't whore yourself out for money, then you're just a slut and probably have cancer AIDS.
Cancer and my AIDS. So it's assumed that I already have. And we can't keep talking about this. YouTube just going to delete the channel. It's fine.
Catch us.
Let's kick some ice. But anyway, moving on. The first two issues are basically about the Gotham City Police Department trying to catch Mr. Freeze. And while it's good, they do eventually end up calling in Batman. And Batman, delivers them on a rooftop without any fight sequence whatsoever. I thought that was a big no-no, too. We didn't even get to see Batman take out Mr. Freeze. But I think that also kind of set the tone. This wasn't a Batman story. It was a Gotham City story.
Yeah.
So,
which I kind of like that they kept him in the background and focused on the detectives.
Right. And the main character actually is pissed off at Batman because, his partner got, no pun intended, iced by one of Batman's rogues.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the second issue, he looks at Batman and doesn't he call Batman like a little bitch or something?
Yeah, something like
that.
Something like that. But
what brass balls you have to look Batman square in the face and call him a little bitch?
Right. Well, I mean that's just what you do, right? But we go in after they essentially, capture Mr. Freeze, thanks to Batman. Because his whole plan was literally to get all of Gotham City's, authorities together in one room and freeze them to death with the air conditioner, I guess. But after you capture him and then we get back to what stretches out to be the main plot of the series, which is the Lewis girls kidnapping, issue 3 opens up explaining to us that it's not just a kidnapping but a murder. So we find out that a ransom call was made, but the caller never made second contact to try and collect the ransom. Death had taken place before the ransom call was placed. And it literally goes into the procedural of police department on this case. And this case is already set up and important because it was the last case that the guy who just got iced by Mr. Freeze was on. I really appreciated all the things that I didn't appreciate in the second issue by the time I started reading the third.
Yeah, and I like how you also see that our main detective who didn't get killed in that, he's obsessive about finishing this case for his dead partner. And it's not blatant. It's not blatant, though. It comes across in, subtle ways.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense that that's what he wants to accomplish.
Yeah. But I'm
You
saying
know.
if it was written by somebody in the Big Two today,
Bendis. Brian Michael Bendis.
it would.
Bendis.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
right there?
Yeah. Had some
Okay.
Bendis stuck in my throat.
Oh man, you don't want that. You do not want that.
Somebody's gonna clip
But
that.
but the dialogue would be like, "Oh my god, my anxiety is so high. I have OCD in solving this case." Lol. Like,
Right.
if the same story was written today, that's what the dialogue would be.
Well, and I hate to compare it to this, but if anybody in the chat or watching this on replay remembers the show Rescue Me, I don't even know if you remember that show.
I don't.
Okay, Dennis Leary was a fireman who was followed by the ghost of people that had died.
Okay.
Okay, it was an FX show, but they got away with a lot of side boob.
Oh.
Yeah, but my wife has been rewatching it on some kind of streaming service, and one thing that I can say is there's kind of an unspoken bond between members of law enforcement, first responders, firemen, things of that nature. And a lot of that kind of seemed to play into this book. And even though the art isn't as super detailed as, say, a Cyberfrog or even some of Jonathan Hickman's X-Men or Esad Ryback's work on Secret Wars or 2015. Greg Capullo's Spawn, Todd McFarlane, any of those artists. Even though the artwork isn't as detailed as something like that, the body language still comes across well.
Yeah, it does.
So, Dennis Leary, Matt Christie, yeah, Dennis Leary, the comedian, the Chainsmoker. He was a fireman in the show. But the kind of plot lines that I saw in that, like this reminded me more of a show like Rescue Me or maybe even some of The Shield, if you ever saw that with Michael Chiklis.
I never watched it, but that one I know of.
Okay. Well, it's about a group of corrupt cops, but the procedural aspect of this book reminded me a lot of those shows over like a Law and Order or a CSI. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Like this was a lot more gritty, down to earth.
And I really, really enjoyed that.
Right. Like it didn't feel forced. Like you didn't feel like these people were breaking the law for sense of literary device. They were following their instincts and going by the book. Like, if anything, these cops were too good to be working in Gotham City. You never saw one of them take a. Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the replays are on the streaming service, Matt Christie. I never watched it when it first came out, but as she's been rewatching it, yeah, The Shield was awesome. Walton Goggins was great in that. Who did he play, Novel Bro? I'm not going to look it up because I'm drinking scotch now and I'm trying to manage my own drunk. So, but no, the procedural aspect of this book it felt a lot more natural. Another criticism I have of it is just simply, at least half of the cops in this book are on the take with some mafia boss or supervillain. So, I mean, while they might, and again, that could be an actual nod to the use of literary device by Brubaker, because cops, regardless of how crooked they might be, would probably band together regardless if one of their own kicked it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've I don't know, second cousin. I think that's right. I don't know, my grandma's nephew. That'd be second cousin, right?
Great cousin.
Whatever. Yeah, he's retired now, but yeah, he was an NYPD narc.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm very familiar with how that stuff works.
But
Also plays guitar in a Led Zeppelin tribute band.
But anyway, third issue picks up, and excuse me, they find out that this is probably a murder, probably a staged, body. The ransom note was probably to throw detective and family off the trail. And what Ayrton was talking about earlier, and what I'll go ahead and spoil, is that they interview a family that this girl has been babysitting for. And it's so obvious that they have something to do with the murder.
Right, and I think he tried to put some clues in, but he just made them a little too obvious.
Right, it was just a little too on the nose.
Yeah, because he said the ransom note was sent via an online fax from like an internet cafe or something like that, so they couldn't track it. Then as they're pulling into the neighborhood, it's like a rich neighborhood in Gotham. He's like, oh, all these, internet millionaires or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. Well,
right.
So this one's gonna be, and then the way he wrote the dialogue of,
but
this rich family.
Yeah, this rich couple.
I'm pretty sure it's them.
Well, what it turns out is that after they, bag Mr. Freeze, that a series of arsons take place. So they follow their intel, they arrest the previous firebug, as well as someone who's supposedly an accomplice, and they find out that the previous firebug is not the culprit because he had sold his gear as quote-unquote memorabilia. And this, on
the internet. Again, that's another one of those
on a blind auction on the dark webs. Yeah,
one of those other not so subtle clues that he put in there.
Right. So what they do is the PD outsmarts the criminal by calling him in for some questioning and to identify a potential culprit. So when they do that, they have the original firebug in there, and he identified the man that came over to test the armor before he bought it as the man that was, paying the girl to babysit for him. And it turns out that the reason that she had to be killed was because she discovered that he was the firebug by snooping around his house. There was some stuff about her having a batarang from an encounter with Batman and Robin earlier, and scooping it up from the scene of the encounter. And that kind of gave credence to the idea that she would snoop around her clients' homes if she thought that they may have some kind of secret that would lead her to more popularity or whatever it was that she was after.
I mean, wouldn't you snag a batarang from a Batman fight scene if you could?
Fuck no, he's got GPS in those things. I don't want him showing up in my house. Batman would kick my ass.
I mean, I would.
I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a bullshitter when it comes to that stuff, Aaron. Batman would whoop the shit out of me. I don't care how many times I shot him. His armor's probably bulletproof at this point. He's not stupid.
I mean, if you live streamed him kicking your ass, though.
Absolutely. I would dual stream it here and on Twitter.
Exactly.
I'd patch you in on the microphone so you could shill for us nonstop. Be awesome.
And shit talk in the background.
Yeah. Oh, you piece of shit!
All you got for him?
Oh, goddamn. Fuck you.
You can hit
You know what? You're fired. Get the fuck out of here. You're done. I'm done with you.
Okay, I wouldn't shit talk Batman because then he'd find me and kick my ass.
I got your doc, son. I'll give it to him. As he's whooping my ass. Go find Ayrton. Just follow the dirty water. He's in Michigan somewhere. You know, they never fix Flint. Just, you know, follow the lead trails in the water. It'd be great. Anyway. You're hired back until the show's over, at least. But
just throw a bucket of Flint water in Batman's face. Just gets like instant lead poisoning.
He turns into the Joker. You're everything that's wrong with DC Comics at this point. But all in all, as far as Gotham Central goes, I mean, it's classic Brubaker. It doesn't have the same feel because Sean Phillips isn't involved, like he is with the next book.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of weird.
Well, I mean, you can't always get the guy that draws your books to draw your books when you get asked to write more books than he gets asked to draw.
True.
But all in all, I mean, Gotham Central, pretty good. I kind of want to read the rest of it now that I know that it's done and over with.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Definitely recommend it if you like these kind of stories, or been
it was kind of
fan of his. If you've been a fan of Criminal, you should definitely read this.
Yeah, a lot of, like, this is more Brubaker than I feel like Winter Soldier was.
Yeah, I could see that. But Winter Soldier did have the machine gun jetpack gorilla.
Yeah, but I feel like that was just Brubaker being like, I'm contracted at Marvel. They can't fire me from this. I'm going to write whatever the fuck I want to, and they're going to print it.
But it was both of our favorite parts of that volume.
Well, absolutely, but I feel like that was because Brubaker didn't like what he was writing. Like, I feel like he would have been, like, honestly, if you want my take on it, I think that Brubaker would have been better if, instead of giving him Winter Soldier, you gave him Jamie Madrox. You know who Jamie Madrox is? You're an X-Man fan.
I feel like I do, but like
the multiple man from X Factor.
Okay.
Yeah. When he started up the private investigation firm, and he would send his duplicates all over the place to gather information for him while he just hung out at headquarters.
Which I would do the same thing.
Yeah. Until you got your ass whipped because you were too weak because all your duplicates were all over the world.
True.
Spoiler alert, guys.
That would have been awesome.
But that's the kind of book that Brubaker should write.
Yeah.
In Marvel. Not Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is like a war espionage book. You get, like, fucking Grissom to write that. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I still liked what he wrote, but...
Like, you know, I think that the big two should do more, like, celebrity casting on writing and put these fucking newbies in their goddamn place and make them write new stuff that actually succeed before they get good titles. But put George R. R. Martin on a re-envisioning of Marvel 1602, right?
That would be cool. I mean, it would probably stretch out way too long. And
well, yeah, I mean, it'd be the miniseries of 6 to 12 issues would turn into 615 issues. But who cares?
Right.
You know, and George R. R. Martin would probably die halfway through writing it, and they'd have to contract one of Tolkien's kids.
Yeah. Or Peter Jackson, because Peter Jackson claims to be an expert on Tolkien.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? But
I can stretch The Hobbit out to 3 movies because I understand Tolkien's work better than anybody.
Now,
go fuck yourself.
Before we transition into Hawkman, there was kind of a brief mentioning that I wanted to have. I was actually going to tell it to you last night, but you were probably asleep by then. So last night, I was up because I have a 2-year-old. And I was like, all right, well, I know I normally wait for something to be done before I read it in its completion. But I had gotten into, well, not even gotten into. There was a gentleman on Twitter, and I say that with all sincerity. There was a guy on Twitter who had put out a post as a reply to something, and it said, you show me someone who says the comic industry is failing or dying, and I'll show you someone who probably doesn't read comics. And my wife retweeted it and commented on it. And me being me, I bit my tongue, and I said, before I call this guy a cuck, let me take the bait and see where this fishing line goes, right?
Okay.
So I literally responded, all right, I'll take the bait. I've been reading comic books for the better part of 30 years. And I think the industry is failing. I can actually pull up the thread. Can I bring it up on stream? I think I can bring it up on stream. Talk for a moment while I do this. Oh God.
Man, I don't know, depending on what time you were doing this, I don't know if I was asleep or if I was out playing at the bar, but this would have been really fun to watch live.
Oh, no. It wasn't anything like that. Like, it wasn't a big back and forth. It was very personable, actually. That's why I said gentleman. I wasn't being sarcastic at all.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
No.
I've seen your Twitter discussions.
Look, I'm usually pretty personable.
You are, but you can also be a sarcastic dickhead too.
Can be. I just am by nature. What's wrong with you?
Well,
Peter Jackson is one ugly motherfucker. Tolkien would detest the man's mirror image. That's fantastic. All right.
And true.
Make this invisible because, well, fuck it. Twatter.
Tolkien was also a lot classier too, smoking that pipe and shit.
Oh yeah. So basically,
Martin just looks like he enjoys Philly cheesesteaks quite a bit.
So basically, this was the.
I love Philly cheesesteaks.
This was the post here.
Sorry.
Don't be a bitch. So oh no. Oh no.
Oh shit.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Hold on to your butts, folks.
Yeah, I just fucked it up. Don't judge me. Anyway. No, What? Don't read it out loud. They can't see it. You can.
Sorry. You said the last one out loud.
Waters. All right. I just don't want you doing it. Okay? That's so hard to understand?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, Massa. I'm sorry, Massa.
Thank you.
Please don't bring out that whip again.
Wait till after the show. Anyway, this gentleman started out by saying, find me someone complaining about the state and failure of comic books, and I'll show you a person who's probably not reading them. There were a few responses, and I said, well, I'll take the bait. I've been reading comics for near on 20 years. I think the industry is failing. I think the quality and standards of the big two are faltering. Would you like to come on my show to discuss this? And he said, unfortunately, I don't have the time to come on the show. Although this sounds like a fun discussion, let me ask you some follow-ups. One, do you think the industry is failing? How is it failing, and why do you think it's failing based on what? And two, quality standards are faltering. How so? So obviously, this is something that you can't necessarily like fit into a
Twitter
140,
discussion.
yeah, 140 to 280 character discussion. So I typed it out and I screenshotted it. I said, let me preface my response by saying this response is focused mainly on the big two / big four, Marvel, DC, Image, and Dark Horse / IDW, because I've gotten a little bit of response based on that. But one, feel as though the industry is failing based on sales figures to retail outlets, coupled with the fact that retailers are moving less and less books from their own shelves. This is largely based on the big two publishers, as I do know some indie publishers and creators are thriving in the current climate, which ComicGate is proof of. I mean, Ethan Van Sciver, by the end of 60 days on the next Cyberfrog variant, I will be fucking dipped in shit and rolled in breadcrumbs if he doesn't crack $1 million on that book.
Yeah.
But my follow-up was, I don't think Marvel and DC are putting out all bad books, but I do feel they've forgotten that their audience needs to be replaced over time. Over a decade of putting out teen plus books almost exclusively with a $4 to $5 price point has all but estranged the demographic. And I made the conscious decision here not to get into the politics and propaganda of Marvel and DC at this point. Because, you know, this is an industry guy, and this is an industry guy having a discussion in good faith. I'm not going to ask him to answer for everyone's writing, everyone's editing, everyone's agenda.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just pointing out things that he would also notice and were neutral. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I said, I'm currently enamored by House of X, but I wouldn't think of giving it to my young son to enjoy, unlike when I was his age, I had Batman the Animated Series as a comic, which I feel like is a fair statement. No? I mean, yes, I can go to the comic shop right now, and I can pick him up some issues of Sonic the Hedgehog, Looney Tunes, or what else? You know,
Hell, a Three Stooges comic came out this week.
Yeah, but that wasn't all ages either.
Oh, was it?
No.
Oh.
There's just not a lot of all ages books out there. Like DC Superhero Girls, something from Alterna, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's not an all ages Spider-Man or an all ages Batman book out there right now. How devastating is that for the industry? That I can't get my 8-year-old kid excited about something that has Spider-Man or Batman in it because those books are all teen plus.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people don't think about that, and it's not anybody's problem but mine, but...
Well, my buddy's kids, they love Spider-Man specifically.
Right. My kids do too. My daughters, especially because of the new Spider-Man book. Or movie, rather. Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. And so his oldest birthday was a couple weeks ago. And so I didn't go to a comic book store. I went to a Barnes and Noble because they have, just shelves and shelves of trades.
Right.
And it was so hard to find stuff. I did eventually find something. It wasn't quite all ages, but wasn't quite like teen plus. It was kind of in the middle. Like I flipped through it and like vetted it before I bought it for him.
Right.
But still, it took me like 20 minutes digging through all these Spider-Man trades to find something suitable for this kid.
Right.
Because he already likes the character. Like, well, I mean, my buddy, he's like read a few comic books, and like some of our other friends like has heard us talking about them and has watched the movies and stuff, and he finds the characters interesting, but he doesn't read comics, and his kid's into it. So I'm like, well, I mean, I might as well be the fun uncle and buy the kid comic books.
Well,
I thought about ordering some Alterna, but
I got you, fam. Don't worry.
I'm still gonna order some Alterna for them, but
just talk to me after the show. I got you, fam.
All right.
You forget I have a shitload of long boxes in my closet that I need to thin out a little bit. And most of my stuff is like 90s or back. So I've got some all ages stuff in there. Right. But we'll get you some Alterna too. Don't worry. Peter Cimetti, shout out. Alterna Comics. Alterna Distribution.
I need to do
printing partnerships. Anyway, my final thought was that would be one of my cornerstone complaints as to why the industry is failing is that, well, the cornerstone complaint would be that they're not replacing their audience. See, when I was a kid, I was lucky. I don't even know if you fall into this demographic, but when I was a kid, I was lucky because I fell into the demographic of X-Men the Animated Series, Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the Saturday morning cartoon, the Power Rangers,
Spider-Man
Beetleborg,
and his amazing friends.
All of these shows that correlated with comic books. I don't know if you remember that or not, but every one of these shows,
all of those,
right? But every one of them had a correlating comic book for some span of time, whether it ran the length of the show or after the show. Because Batman the Animated Series kept on well after the show. Spider-Man, I don't know, ran for the entire duration of the show, but. I mean, Justice League, the cartoon show. I mean, there were Justice League. Go ahead.
That one was probably out of all of those superhero shows, that one was probably the best.
Justice League?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Legion of Doom, with Toyman. Oh, Toyman was fucking awesome.
Well, that's why I say my first Green Lantern was John Stewart, because that was my introduction to Green Lantern.
No. Hal Jordan was Green Lantern on that show.
No, he wasn't.
That show had you're not thinking about the same show I am. The Super Friends is what I'm talking about. The Super Friends with the Justice League.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the later Justice League cartoon with like Hawk Girl and...
Yeah, you're being wrong. See, I remember the racist Apache Chief. In the chuck. But anyway, number 2, when we were talking about the quality, I said the quality of the big 2 books has been faltering not only in printing and inks, but art as well as storytelling. And without using the quote-unquote they're hiring people unqualified excuse, which, again, is a common talking point, but I'm trying to argue in good faith, I would go further and say that the people hired aren't required to prove themselves in the way that creators were when I was coming up. Like, the creators I read growing up, I mean, you're talking, I was reading comics that were back issues from the 80s, that Stan Lee was the editor on, that were back issues from the 70s that Jack Kirby hand drew. I mean, we're talking about books that have pedigree, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that what am I thinking of? The New Gods or the, what were the Darkseid's planet called? Apocalypse? Do you think that any of those characters would have gained any kind of popularity if they weren't drawn by Jack Kirby in the style with the care that he had? That was him proving himself to DC, like, I can do all of it. I can make
2 tabs of acid.
Well, he basically walked in, put his dick on the table, and created an entire universe of characters that could live within or without the DC universe.
Right.
If DC didn't give him a contract right then, he would have been like, okay, cool. And he would have picked his characters up off of his fucking notepad and walked out of the office and walked back to Marvel and said, well, DC didn't want to put any money up, y'all. By the way, I created this. But DC was smart, and they were like, oh, okay. Well, this guy's walking over here and creating something we think will sell. I'm down with that. Iron Man animated show 2. A War Hero 2, Tolkien fought in World War 1. Absolute eternal Chad in every way. You got to make a Chad versus Incel meme of Tolkien and King. Tolkien and King novel, bro. That's your assignment for the evening. But at least Jackson can conceive children like a man. Oh! Looks at George R. R. Martin with peak shade. That is fantastic. That's in the chat. That is not endorsed by the Gospel of Comics, but whew, that is some hot takes, and I appreciate hot takes more than the next man probably. So.
Man, Novel Bro always in here with his spicy takes on stuff.
Always the spiciest of takes. I'm gonna make him some more YouTube accounts in case his get nuked like his Twitters. I'm gonna make him a couple of YouTube accounts just in case.
Yeah.
But anyway,
are you sure you're not Cajun with that kind of spice, Novel Bro? Are you sure you're Scottish?
He is. I hear they have the spiciest jambalaya in Scotland. Sticking to just a
salt and pepper.
Shut up. Sticking to just a print quality. Every week when I bag and board comics at my local shop, shout out my local shop who is not identified because I'm not doxed yet. There's next to always an issue with the packaging of books from Diamond, which I'm inferring here, leading to creased covers, folded comics, even occasional rips or tears. While that distribution, which publishers are excused from, is still an issue, not to mention the running ink that has been an intermittent issue over the last few years from Marvel specifically. Not always, but it does pop up occasionally, isn't called for in a product that runs $5 off the shelf. May seem nitpicky, but as a fan, it is enough to draw concern, especially considering that main publishers in the industry are now owned by AT&T and Disney, respectively, who care little to nothing for their comic printing arm of their properties. And, I mean, I think that says everything that everyone's worried about in one tightly wrapped little bow. Like,
yeah.
When I was first getting into the history of comics, Aaron, and I went back to 1936 and 37 when funny books were still being printed. You know how many publishers there were? You remember when I showed you my digital archives of fair trade comics?
Yeah.
And I had there's like 300 different publishers.
Yeah, it's insane.
Hey, that's just from the 30s. That doesn't count every iteration of company that popped up because one went bankrupt and they were trying to dodge taxes. But before Marvel and DC and Image and IDW and Boom and Aftershock and Alterna and All Caps and what?
And Goddamn Dynamite.
And Goddamn Dynamite. Before all those publishers popped up, I mean, what was there? There was 300 independent comics publishers fighting for space on the newsstand.
Yeah.
Do you think that it would be acceptable to send an issue out 2 weeks in a row where as soon as you open the interior pages and you looked at your thumb, there was an ink print on your fucking thumb because the ink wasn't even fucking dry in the book? Do you think they would have accepted that in the 30s when there were 300 competitors?
Oh, hell no.
Then why is it acceptable when your industry is fucking dying only because you have 10 competitors?
Well,
9 of which aren't even a threat.
Well, we're kind of, in a way, going back to that model of just hundreds of publishers fighting for that space with the Indiegogo model.
I don't think so. I think there's
so?
I think there's an end game there. I think there's something we're not seeing.
But I mean, if you just look at it just in terms of like Indiegogo is a digital news stand, right?
No.
Just follow me for a second.
Okay.
If we look at Indiegogo as a digital newsstand, then you have these hundreds of independent creators fighting for the attention in the top spot on that platform. That's what I mean by that. We're kind of seeing a return to sort of idea.
I don't think so, honestly. I think that Indiegogos are a more accurate model of what a consumer wants. Because let's take a step back, all right? Let's go back to the early 2000s, right when Gotham Central came out, okay?
All right.
We're talking about a time frame when we're just coming out of the Age of Apocalypse, and all the X-Men titles are rebooting after the disastrous run of what was 90s X-Men and X-Force and X-Factor.
And X breakfast cereal and
yeah, we're reeling off of cable coming into existence. You know, the cartoon boom, the foil covers, the variant covers, all that shit has already collapsed. The death of Superman happened, and Superman's already back to his previous state.
Which, by the way, sorry, just quick aside.
Absolutely. This is what you're here for.
I had to go out of my way to get a non-variant cover of Powers of X this week. It was really annoying. Anyways.
Start a fucking pull list at your goddamn comic shop.
I know.
Support your local comic shops, people. Check out our links down below on how to support the show. And after you do that, support your local comic stores.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still supporting the local shop.
I know. But if you pre-order stuff, a lot of times you might even get like something like a 10% discount. Which isn't shit on one book, but if you're buying like 10 a month, it's $4. And that's a comic for free.
Right. Anyways, I just wanted to point that out. They had a ton of variants and like one stack of like the regular cover. I was like, I don't want these variants. The variants kind of suck. There was one that was kind of cool. It was like Storm and Rogue and a couple of others. Like, it looked like they were playing like fetch with a dinosaur in the Savage Land. But if I can help it, I refuse to buy variants. Anyways, continue.
The final part of my statement was, in closing, it isn't that I feel like comics are just going to go the way of the dodo bird, but with these things that I and others who share my feelings, people that have been in this chat, you to a certain degree, have noticed over the years, it doesn't bode well for the health and stability of the hobby that I've held near and dear to my heart for almost 30 years. Still go out of my way weekly to look for new titles. Kanto is absolutely amazing, by the way, as well as support indie creators. But it does get harder and harder to take chances on the next universe-busting event or character reboot after several years of being disappointed time and time again. Sorry for the text wall, but I didn't feel I could answer in good faith using 140 characters without annoying everyone in my thread. Church. And that was pretty much the end of this debate and this discussion or whatever. So we'll close that now. And we'll move on to the second part of the reason that I brought this up. After I had that exchange, I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, since Marvel has tried to ship Captain Marvel to me 7 times over the last year and a half, I haven't really given time of day since Secret Empire. Basically, since Secret Wars 2015, I was done with Marvel after this. Like, I felt like that Secret Wars 2015 was basically a love letter to the Marvel Universe by Jonathan Hickman. And I was pretty cool in checking out then. I mean, there were still some titles I supported. Doctor Strange. Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows was one of my books. So any of you calling me a misogynist in the chat, don't fuck yourself. I love the idea of Mary Jane and Mayday Parker having powers. You suck my dick. But Doctor Strange was kind of being retconned to being a little bit more of a John Constantine type character, and I kind of enjoyed that. The infamous Iron Man, where Tony Stark was dead and Doctor Doom took his place instead of Riri Williams in certain story arcs. The Punisher series, where Punisher took on the War Machine armor. I picked up all of that. Even the series where they introduced X-23 as the new Wolverine after Old Man Logan died trying to protect her and her sister after the Secret Wars event. I read all of that, and I enjoyed it. But after Secret Empire, after making Captain America a Nazi and then following it up by a Civil War II, where you tried to force Tony Stark being a fascist against Carol Danvers being the actual bad guy to everyone who read the fucking book, and then still being shipped as being right in the altercation. Fuck you. But that kind of killed any enthusiasm that I had as far as, you know, taking DC as a publisher seriously, or Marvel as a publisher seriously. DC did a little better, but what they did with Rebirth kind of turned me off, because rebooting an entire line and making it all kind of tie in with one another was exhausting to keep up with and impossible financially.
Well, that's kind of the other problem, is these two rebooting their entire universes every 7 years.
Yeah, if not sooner.
Yeah. I mean, like, how many times are we going to have to restart from the beginning, getting the same damn origin stories, just with a few characters switched around, or
a time shift?
Yeah, like it happened in the fall instead of the summer, or some stupid bullshit like.
Or it happened in Korea instead of Vietnam, or World War I, or whatever.
Yeah, like, how many times are we gonna have to deal with that? Like, knock it off. It's annoying.
Well, and it all kind of culminates. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down off the screen. We may or may not get to Hawkman tonight. I'm not done ranting yet. But, with the discussion that I had, and kind of thinking on it, I was like, all right, well, it's been a few months, a lot of months, actually, since I gave either Marvel or DC a solid chance. Like, I've gone out of my way to read as many indie books as I possibly could, especially with you on the show, right?
Yeah.
Making you pick an indie book. Like, I never would have picked up Killer Groove. That shit sounds gay. But, and I don't mean gay in a homosexual or a homophobic way. I mean gay as a 90s kid calling something undesirable gay. Not a slur. It's topical. But you turned me on to that, and now I'm a little pissed off that the 5th issue didn't come out this week, which it was supposed to.
I know. What the hell?
But I decided to be like, okay, let me give Marvel and DC a solid chance. So I, on my night off, for you people, I got into my cups, which means I had some alcohol off the show, which I normally don't do, but I did Tuesday night and tonight before the show. But work's been a bitch lately. I read Absolute Carnage #1, and I read Gotham City Underworld, or what is it, Monsters World or Monster Town. It was a Gotham City book that was kind of like Gotham Central, surprisingly. But it was based on monsters in Gotham City during the Leviathan event and the Year of Criminals or whatever. It was interesting, but like, it had shit to do with Batman. And that was the coolest part about it, I think.
Yeah.
Like, in the book that we just read, like, they couldn't help but just have Batman in there at least once, right?
Right.
But in, God damn it, where is it? Don't be a bitch.
Uh-oh. He broke it.
I just have too many fucking books queued up in this fucking Comixology account. It's cool. Gotham City Monsters is the name of it.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's a 5-issue series, 6-issue series. But it has Lady Clay, Frankenstein, Killer Croc, Orca, which I think is Renfamous' secret identity. So DC doxed Renfamous. It's pretty fantastic. But all of them are being... Oh, and Andrew Bennett, the vampire. He has some DC lore that I'm not entirely familiar with. But I'll get familiar with it if you guys want to go to patreon.com/Gospel of Comics, I think. It's in the link down below. And make me read it after I update a $5 a month Patreon. But Grace Balin, aka Shade Agent Orca, is essentially King Shark as a woman with shark breasts, but the muscular physique of a man.
Weird.
But the book is decent, I've got to say. Like, it handles the multitude of characters well. It handles their interactions well. It sets them up. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about this book, gotta say.
Well, that's good. I mean, I did pick up the Wolverine annual because, I had to.
See if you can get the second printings of all of the Dead Man Logan. That's like a 12-issue series. I've got the first 11 because that's the one that came out this week, but 12 will be like a month out.
Okay, yeah, I probably can.
But the point of this is that DC is putting out a book that I'm not familiar with. I wasn't enticed to read it all, but it was a new #1, so I downloaded it on Comixology because, I had the money and I wanted to read it. The monsters are my weakness. And then I already had Absolute Carnage #1, and I hadn't read it because the series wasn't over. So I decided I'm going to read both of these. And I'm going to give them a fair shake without thinking about them as Marvel or DC books. I'm going to grade the artwork, I'm going to grade the writing, and I'm going to grade how I feel after I read this book. Carnage #1, or Absolute Carnage #1, Abso-fucking-lutely stellar book.
Really?
I would almost give it the same accolades I gave Cyberfrog last night. Difference is that I don't trust the creators to keep this gravy train rolling.
Which is fair. I mean, at this point.
Monsters, like Gotham City Monsters, fucking fantastic book. Group of creators I know nothing about. The artwork is solid, the writing is solid, the story is solid. The fact that they can cram 6 characters that I know next to nothing about because they came about after the Crisis of Infinite Earths. I have nothing to complain about. It was a decent first issue. I look forward to the rest of the series, just like I did with the Deceased: A Good Day to Die. Now, what pisses me off is the catalyst for this book always harkens back to Leviathan and the Year of the Villain. And I'm not okay with that, because I have no interest in reading Leviathan. But in order to understand this era of Marvel and DC Comics, I'm going to have to read Absolute Carnage. I'm going to have to read Leviathan. And even if they're not good, you know, I'm going to have to know what happened in them to understand what happened next. Biggest criticism I have of it.
Yeah.
But Absolute Carnage #1 was a good fucking book. And Gotham City Monsters was a good fucking book. So it made me think to myself, why am I actively avoiding purchasing books from Marvel and DC? Why are a lot of people actively avoiding those two companies? And there's only one answer. We've been let down.
I was going to say, I would think it's their attitude towards the fans.
Well, we've been let down for time and time again. However, I was listening to a Nick Rekieta stream where he had Ethan Van Sciver and Thomas Royal up on doing a debate about Comicsgate versus digital print gate or something. And Ethan said something that kind of rang true to me. And he said, it's not about the accessibility of these characters. People will pay for them. They just have to be written in a way that people can recognize them. And they need to be... What was his exact quote? I don't want to fuck it up. He said something that made a lot of sense. They need to be promoted. Was one of his big points, right?
Yeah.
You see why a lot of these indie comics on Indiegogo do well, and that's because a lot of people follow the Twitter accounts, a lot of people retweet it and hashtag it and all that good stuff, and you don't really see that from mainstream artists. Like, I follow Jonathan Hickman and Alex Ross, and I get an Alex Ross post about every day. Usually it's an announcement of a museum exhibit that's featuring him, or some of his artwork that he's showcasing, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been following Jonathan Hickman for over a year. And I think I've seen like 3, maybe 4 tweets from him. But one thing that I've noticed is a lot of the professionals working for the Big 2 or the Big 4 or whatever you say, anybody that doesn't own the book they're creating, they don't promote it. And Ethan pointed out that he thinks it's because of their contracts that they don't necessarily know if they can or not. How fucking ridiculous is that?
I mean, that makes sense. It sounds like something that these large, not just comic books, but like any large entertainment media corporation would do.
We've seen it in anime, right? Animation employees have their social media accounts monitored by the company, and they're censored from saying certain things about certain properties, right?
Right.
But what it is there's no code of conduct for social media to allow these creators to talk about their properties and their products, because none of them own any of it. Right. So what's their incentive, first and foremost? Why would they be on social media except to fucking dunk on Trump and shit talk Trump supporters? However, the backlash of that is, why would you do that if you were probably going to sell a book to that Trump supporter?
Yeah, so their accounts are monitored for anything based off their work, but that's okay to do.
Well, let me put it like this. Alex Ross, probably a very hardcore leftist, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a safe bet.
One would assume that a guy that's worked with Mark Wade and has done every cover ever for Astro City, probably a liberal. You'd never know it from following his Twitter account. Never once have I seen an Alex Ross post telling me that I'm not the target demographic for his book. You know why? Alex Ross is a fucking professional.
Right.
You know, do what you want to do.
And what's with this target demographic bullshit anyways? Your target demographic is whoever's interested enough to pick up your damn book.
Whoever has enough money to purchase the book on their person.
That's your demographic.
That is my target demographic for patrons and Streamlabs donations. Anybody that has the money in their pocket to join my Patreon or donate via Streamlabs, that is my demographic. 100%.
Yeah, enough of this. The current Miss Marvel is for immigrant women. Like,
yeah.
I think Black Widow's an awesome character. I am not a redheaded female nor Russian, but
wait, are you sure? Do I need to fire you again? You've been lying to me this whole time?
I mean, it depends on the day.
Should the beard have given it away?
Probably.
Shit.
But it is current year, so you never really know these days.
2019. I mean, if you identify as a redheaded female Russian, I guess I gotta accept it.
That's true. I might put that in my Twitter bio.
There you go. Should I'll retweet it.
But
yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't matter the physical characteristics of a character do not matter. It's who the character is as a person that makes us identify with them.
One of our favorite books on this channel is Adolescent Radioactive.
Canadian, for God's sakes.
What I was going to say is
identify with a Canadian.
One of our favorite books on the channel is Adolescent Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters. Neither one of us are a hamster.
Or radioactive. Well, I can't speak for you whether you're radioactive.
You better not fucking speak for me. Don't goddamn dox me over here in goddamn Chernobyl.
But I'm at least not radioactive last time I checked.
Well, I'm a hamster and radioactive, but I have not passed my black belt test yet.
Just a purple belt then.
Brown belt.
Oh, okay.
You forgot to ask what the black belt was in. But also, I have a full run of Spider-Girl from M2. I have every issue of Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows that's ever come out since Secret Wars started in 2015, all the way until it became an ongoing series. I have a halfway decent run of what is it? Judo Master. Um, uh, I don't know judo. I'm not a female with spider powers. I'm not a family of people with spider powers, but I love those books.
I have Samurai Grandpa. I am not a samurai nor a grandpa.
God damn it, you lied to me again?
Yes, I am a redheaded Russian female and a samurai grandpa at the same time.
And a cybernetic frog, right?
I thought that was you.
No. I'm the cybernetic salamander.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got that one confused.
Okay.
But
I'm definitely bigger than you.
that's fair. I mean, we have that Condorito that I bought for us.
Yeah, neither one of us are a baby condor.
Nor can either of us read Spanish.
Well, I can, but I didn't want to let that on.
Oh.
Don't ice swap me, guys. I promise I didn't cut any of you off in traffic. But the point is that I read these two books and they were fine. They were good. And I was interested in continuing the series. However, it had been so long since I had the good faith to do that based on every one of these Captain Marvel reboots coming out and being shoved in my fucking face. Captain Marvel being shoved in my face during a rehash of an event that was kind of coalescent of my upcoming Civil War. Yeah. Captain America being deemed a fucking Nazi in Secret Empire. I mean, what the fuck? And then you make him a member of Antifa in his ongoing series? What is wrong with you people? How are you going to retain an audience doing bullshit like this?
Yes. Remember, ask me about my feminism.
My feminist agenda, sir.
Or feminist agenda.
But, I mean, that's almost
we may
what...
be mansplaining here, but...
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why it's so refreshing to read something like Brubaker's, Gotham Central or Cyberfrog or, even the fucking Spider-Man #1 by J.J. Abrams that had less than stellar art and really bad cutscenes. I mean, it's refreshing to read stuff like that because I can get through an entire comic book without feeling like I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
And
unlike that whatever book I picked up last week that I couldn't even finish.
Oh God, Pandamerica or whatever?
Yeah, whatever it was.
But yeah, I mean, so many comic books from Marvel, DC, and auxiliary publishers. Ask me about my cyber amphibian agenda. I called it my animatronic amphibian agenda because we had bionic. I don't know. There were several Cyberfrog references on Twitter once it started chipping. It's pretty fantastic. Welcome back to the chat, not Hex. But no, the thing is that we've just been burned so many times as readers, and unless you're selling a $1.50 comic like Peter Samedi at Alterna Comics, why am I going to keep burning $5 on new series that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to like any more than I like the last new series?
Yeah. I mean, if all these new books that came out from the big two, even 250, I'll give them the 250 because it's not newsprint.
Right.
I would probably be more inclined to at least buy more first issues, maybe even seconds, because sometimes it takes it takes a little bit to get the ball rolling.
Apparently, according to Gotham Central, you got to wait till issue 3 to actually give a shit about it.
But even if they were $250, I would buy more stuff from them. Pretty much all I get for like new first issues or annuals or whatever is, for the most part, Wolverine from Marvel and Green Lantern from DC.
Oh, Cartoon, have a good night, buddy. Thank you for stopping by. And not Hex, you're quite welcome. Chrome is the worst. You should try Brave.
Yeah, I hear Chrome's been having a lot of issues with YouTube specifically.
Yeah, Brave is a...
Which makes no sense, because it's the same damn company. But...
Oh, no, it makes all the sense. You have to keep updating and giving them more and more of your information.
Yeah, that's
but,
a good point.
You know, based on that conversation I had on Twitter, I went out and in good faith, I read 2 new issues of Marvel Comics and DC Comics that weren't terrible. And I realized that I had been avoiding reading these 2 companies because of previous experience. It's almost like those Magic books. You remember those Magic comics we tried to read and couldn't barely do it?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, that's how it goes.
It's like my brain was branded by those books.
Well, imagine if those were the first and only Marvel or DC books you ever read, right?
Oh, yeah. I would never read comic books again.
Not from those companies, at least, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's how I felt after those 2 major events. Yeah, definitely try Brave out, if nothing else. Make Chrome jealous. Make it ask you, are you sure you want to change your default settings?
And also, another thing I want to say, can they knock it off with the goddamn events and crises? And
No, they can't. That's editorial mandate. They have to have one event or one major fucking shindig every year to shake up the. Oh, not Hex. I'm gonna show your chat here because I'm no cuck. I have, I think, the number 0 of Absolute Carnage that was given out at Free Comic Book Day. I guess I need to read that shit. Well, number 1 was fucking fantastic, so yeah, you should read number 0. And probably mean Halloween. Wait, Free Comic Book Day last year? That's early as fuck, but I guess that's what they did with Secret Warriors too. But no, I mean it's a pretty fucking phenomenal storyline because of everything that's happened with the symbiotes. And Gotham City Monsters wasn't as good as Absolute Carnage, but it was still good on its own merit, especially considering there weren't like any names attached to it. And when I stepped back and thought of it, I was just like, okay, well, I haven't been reading these books because I didn't want to waste my time and money. And I am right in the middle, or depending on how you look at it, right at the beginning of your spread of comic readers' age gap, right? Right. I'm 32 years old. So your average comic reader is between 35 and 75. Reader / collector. At 32 years old, I shouldn't have been scared off by an industry or a publisher in that industry. I shouldn't already be looking at the distribution model of that industry going, this is horse shit. Speak.
Oh, it sounded like you were still going. Well, and I mean, I was always more of a casual reader till doing the show. Obviously, I'm reading a lot more now.
And you're welcome for that.
Yeah. Thank
Also,
you.
you could have just stopped at casual. You were always just a casual.
Yeah.
You remember in issue 4 of Gotham City Central where he was just like, yeah, he's a veteran police.
Yeah. Yeah. Or there was another line too like that. It's like he was a good police.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I read that one a couple times. Like, wait a second, did I miss something? Was I reading too fast?
Right. I think the
But,
last time I
mean,
dedicated myself to any title was after Executioner's Song. Yeah, I mean, I picked up all 251 issues and as many variant covers as I could of Secret Wars 2015. I bought into Rebirth pretty hard. I think I have every Rebirth #1 that came out on release.
jeez.
Well, I mean, the first 4 weeks were pretty intense, but after that, it kind of slowed down.
But anyways, when I go to my local shop every week, I say local loosely.
Yeah, when you hop in your teleporter and you magically appear.
Yeah. But I mean, there's so many other titles that just visually look more interesting too than most of the stuff that gets released every week from those two.
Well, why do you think that I encourage you to look at independent #1s rather than #1s coming out from Marvel and DC?
Yeah. I mean, again, unless it's like certain characters that I like from the two of them, I don't usually look at it.
Right, but what I'm saying is, why do you think the majority, even with the Ed Brubaker like writer spotlight that we've been doing, the first thing I introduced you to was something that was on Icon and then moved to Image. And the reason I moved you to that is right, but most of the titles that I bring up to cover are independent titles or they're what do you call alternative imprints. Like, you know, Icon was Marvel Comics, but it was the Marvel Comics they couldn't put out with the Marvel Comics header.
Right.
And I mean, I've got bad comics that were I've got bad comics that were released under those imprints too, like what is it? Precinct 10 or what the fuck ever. It was a cop procedural book that was done without Ed Brubaker with superhero trappings, and it's just bad. I mean, it's fun to read, but it's bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've picked up a couple bad Image titles over the past few months, you know. Everybody's going to have a dud. I mean, when we did our first show on Alterna, I didn't really care for the actual Roger, but
I didn't either. But I mean, the difference with that is that every book on Alterna has a different creator,
right? And then the actual Rogers, that is aimed for a younger audience too.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
well, and let me preface this conversation by saying that earlier in the week I had randomly picked up one of last week's titles or the week before, something like that. It's a one-shot called The Year of the Villain Riddler from DC. And it mainly focuses around Edward Nygma. And there's another villain called King Tut, I believe. He's an Egyptian villain. And they talk about teaming up. And Riddler's all pissed off because all the other supervillains got visits and gifts from Lex Luthor. Because he's a god now during the Year of the Villain or some shit. And Luther visits Nigma, and he explains to him that, you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, and that's essentially the definition of insanity. So, let me see, after about 30 pages of comic book, the Riddler's just like, you know what? Because he's involved with the scheme with with King Tut, and the Riddler's like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not doing the Riddler gimmick anymore. I'm just gonna show up and fucking be a badass, or I'm gonna be a nice guy, or whatever. But I'm not doing this whole Riddler gimmick anymore. Fuck being Enigma. Fuck all that. This isn't getting me anywhere. I've been doing it for too long. And it's so surprising, but it's so well written. And as a one shot, I initially moved to the creators, and I was like, wait, who did this? And it's a group of creators that I've never heard of. Mark Russell on writing, Scott Goldwynski on art, and Marissa Louise as the colorist, and Travis Lanham as the letterer. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. But it's another example of a DC book that was really decent, but because I'm not really big into mainstream comics right now, it never went on my pull list. Are you even still there? Did you fall asleep?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Making sure.
Yeah, I've been leery about the Year of the Villain stuff.
Well, it's the entire line, and that's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Like, I knew there was a Leviathan event, and
the concept seems interesting, but it seems daunting and expensive to try and keep up with it.
Right, exactly. And, even if
I can deal with the 12 issue Hickman X-Men run. Like, that's no big deal.
Not Hex in the chat says schemes and scams. I believe that is an anti-war campaign meme, and I definitely appreciate it. The schemes and scams are the absolute worst, but that's the only reason I will ever rear my head in your Discord server is to participate in schemes and scams. Also, if you'd like to influence future schemes and scams on this show, check out the links below for the Streamlabs and the Patreon.
So for you to shill that stuff, you just have to be well lubricated for the shows?
Probably, yeah.
Because the past few I've had to do it.
Well, Ethan Van Sciver was in the chat. You think I was getting drunk while he was here?
Well, it's fair.
I mean, it's the same reason I didn't get completely plastered on Ricada's show. I'm sure Ricada pre-lubricated for that show, but not me, goddammit. But the reason I brought all that up, like, to kind of coalesce that whole debacle of word salad that I just spewed out of my face hole. Because of an interaction on Twitter, I decided to go through and read some Marvel and DC comics and reassess my view on the industry. And the reason I did that... Oh, no. I get you, not Hex. I just thought it was funny. Like, I'm not shitting on you. Like, in fact, let me do this. How about this? Boom. There you go. Now type something in the chat, big dog. It'll literally show up. I'm not trolling you. Type something in the chat. You'll like it. Based on a Twitter interaction with someone who seemed to care as much about comics as I do, I decided to go through and read some Marvel and DC books. And, as much as I'm disillusioned by them, And as much as I'm more so looking forward to Rainbow Brute, Monster MD, even Tales from Nerosville arriving in their physical copies. I've read the preview copies, but I want to hold those books in my hand. I want to do
print.
Yeah, I want to do a review on the print quality. I want to have that guy on to, talk about how awesome it is to have 3 comic books shipped to my door for $11. All of that stuff. But, I can't, in good faith, say that Marvel and DC are doing injustice to the industry as a whole. They're not. But I think they need to do a lot more to regain their trust with their fan base. And I think they need to stop this pandering. I think they need to stop the social justice bullshit. And I think they need to go through and make sure the core audience is taken care of.
They also need to clean house. They need editors that actually care about what's going on and are actually active in running shit.
Well, I mean, you can't ask for 8 miracles in one request. I'm just asking for 10.
Well, that's what I would like to see. Them clean house, streamline all this shit.
Well, I will
accept one more reboot of each universe to clean it up. Get good editors.
I actually want a muddling of each universe. That way you have an excuse to let somebody who doesn't have the chops to write Superman. Okay, well, you want to write Superman, and I don't think you can sell a good Superman title. So here's Superboy Prime. Show me what you got.
Okay. All right, that's okay. That's fair. I'll give
Here's
you that.
Alan Scott Green Lantern. Let me see what you can do.
Yeah.
Here's Jay Garrick Flash. Here's fucking Rhodey as Iron Man because Tony Stark died in 1973. But you don't get Tony Stark Iron Man, and you don't get to replace him with a teenage black girl because my virtue.
Who stole the technology from him.
Right. And everybody acted like she was the victim. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Don't
delete my channel, YouTube. Anyway, we're over budget because I just got too into this discussion. So, I say we wrap it up with our final thoughts. Thank you to everybody in the chat, and a special thanks goes out to SJW Spider-Man, our one and only patron currently. We will have some new tiers up within the week before the weekend show on Saturday. Be sure to get your rest tomorrow and Friday evening and join us Saturday at 10 p.m. or around there, where we will be either talking This Week in Comics or doing a new interview. I'm not sure which yet. We do have to get Captain Weeb on at some point during this week. I think we read Hellsing Ultimate.
All right.
Oh, Novel Bro, you do know that Peter Parker turns into Miles Morales anytime he steals something if you look back at the old comic books. Because when they shade him in black, they make his lines red and make it look like Miles' costume. So, I'm just saying. But, yeah, Captain Weeb. Oh, no. I'm going to report your channel if mine ever gets banned, so it's cool.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, we'll have Captain Weeb on at some point this weekend, and then after that we will go through Ed Brubaker. What are we going to look at for Ed Brubaker this weekend?
I forgot.
Did we ever decide?
We had mentioned a few things. I don't think we actually decided yet.
Did we decide while I was this lit?
It's possible.
I don't think we did.
We discussed doing a Vertigo title.
Vertigo is DC, so.
Or
So is Wildstorm.
do Image or Dark Horse.
There we go. See. We've already done Image with Criminal. We've done Marvel with. Image. Well, actually, we could do another Image title that I really, really like called Killer Be Killed. Because all of his Dark Horse appearances were in Dark Horse Presents, where they were like stories featured in a larger book.
Yeah. Well, one is a Godzilla one, though.
Yeah, but no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I gave you Winter Soldier. You kiss my ass. He wrote Civil War. We can do Killer Be Killed. That'll be my pick.
Okay.
We'll do another Image book that started out as an Image book, and it'll tie into Killer Groove. So, also another creator I've never seen call me an incel or any other name on Twitter. So, take that for what you will. But anyway, thanks to Melodati, Matt Christie, Novel Bro, Not Hex, Cartoon, Captain Weeb, everybody that showed up. Thank you, Ayrton. I'll do my goodbyes after the show, but we are 11 minutes over budget, and we're gonna go to bed now because we both have to go make money. If you want us to be able to go longer and not have to always quit to make money, it's down in the description below.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.